So it was supposed to auto start and it did not. We are live with our Friday writing sprints, and I'm super excited about it. I had it in my little short that I recorded today. I had started talking about the sprints and then it just droned on for way too long. So I cut that part from my video that I had today. So I'm hoping that you guys can all see this. Everything's going good. Good. Silver Ollie's here. When somebody drops something in the chat, then I know that I have not failed you with setting up this live stream. Got ready a whole 10 minutes earlier than normal today. And I've been looking forward to it all week because I'm working on that new book that I mentioned in my video this morning and in my short this afternoon. Because I'm super excited about working on something else. And this is a book that I'm writing along with the boot camp, so that I'm at the same place you guys are, which is weird because I'm actually recording the videos for like week 6 and 7. Actually, I think I'm recording week 8 this weekend. So I'm recording stuff that I haven't quite gotten to yet in my own book, but I'm going back and adding tidbits as I move forward with the book. Like I just did the video, I did the video on the first turning point, and I just reached mine. So I'm like, okay, I can add all these tips because it helps me to really analyze what I do and how I do it and why I do it. The channel has been awesome for helping me understand my process. Nice to see. Yeah, hi, hi, half a mo. Yeah, Daisy is sulking by the door because she wants to EAT. I can't say it out loud because she will go ballistic. It's an hour and 10 minutes until her supper time, but she is sulking because I didn't actually feed her. I gave her a TREAT because I can't say that out loud either, or she'll come over and want another one. And it obviously wasn't enough to tide over her very hungry belly. She lives for breakfast and dinner, absolutely, like goes ballistic. I should get her one of those little mats that make them eat slower because she just devours her food. Nice to see you here, Jenny. And yeah, my hair does, like this morning though, my hair was just awful. I had to keep redoing it before I did my short. It was just not, I don't know, just didn't cooperate. And then it began to fall apart. So it worked out okay. Yeah, my cat, my husband's cat. My husband, I've had cats, but my cats never really liked me. My husband has a cat that I sort of forced on him, because his cat had died and he really, really loved that cat. And so I convinced him to get another one. And I'm the whole reason that cat exists in our house because I like, drove him down to where the cat was being fostered, picked him out, did all the research, bought all the stuff, and now you would think that cat would have no idea that I even exist. He absolutely adores my husband. He looks up at him with this, "Oh, you're the best ever." And our cat's the same way when it's time to um, definitely feed him and everything else. And Jenny, I just did a video on how to write deeper emotion. Unless your unless your questions off of that video too, that I released on Wednesday, I think. And I apologize for the video coming out late this week. The TikTok ban meant CapCut got banned, and CapCut is the only video software that I can understand. You all know that I'm technologically challenged, and I had finally mastered and understood CapCut, and then they banned it because it was owned by ByteDance, and I was like, I don't have time to learn new software. I'm gonna have to because I only have what 73 days until the new ban goes into effect. And I'm pretty sure that CapCut will be part of it again. So, oh yeah, pretty blooms behind me. Those are silk flowers. I can't keep things alive in my house very well. Outside I can because thankfully Mother Nature works with me. But those are just silk flowers. And it's been very cold in Florida for us. I mean, it's 54 right now, but it's going to get down to 38 tonight, and that's very cold. It snowed in northern Florida, just a couple hours north of me, it snowed. So, yeah, I'm not happy with the weather. It feels like a bait and switch. You move down to Florida, so you'll be warm all the time, and then it's like insanely cold for our temperature is actually 20 degrees lower than normal. So it's been pretty darn cold here, but it could be worse, right? Like, look at those poor people in LA and the poor people in North Carolina that are still living just like out of trailers and stuff because they're still, they don't have the infrastructure and everything yet. So it could be worse. Anyways, today's prompt is sort of from something else I saw today that I had an idea for. I don't know if I'm going to have time to do it, but it might be cool to kind of try to work this into my book. Today's prompt is all about going to a sketchy part of town for your character and who they run into and what's the impact on them. But before we get to that, let's talk about Jenny's question. My reader said that the scene should be more heartbreaking, but I think that it will become overly dramatic. And I think that's a great question. Like, I have done scenes that I really wanted to have deep emotion with, and I didn't want it to be somebody sobbing because that's not necessarily how you really feel emotion. I mean, yes, seeing somebody cry is emotional, but not as much as seeing somebody almost cry, or seeing somebody want to cry, or seeing somebody that you know has lost something that means a lot to them. So creating that really emotional scene is about what you do before you get to that scene, about making that thing matter a whole lot. Um, so like I have a character who is in the what is it, From There to Back Again. I had a character who was partially blind. He had like a retinal detachment. And so throughout the book, he begins to slowly regain some of his sight. And it has like completely changed his life. And he's become a hermit. He stays in the house and he doesn't go outside. And he meets this stray dog who's also kind of broken because this dog has been really hurt. And how I show the emotion for him is as the dog becomes healthier and better and begins to enjoy his life again, it becomes a metaphor essentially for my hero. And so my hero begins to trust more in the dog. And then there's this whole scene that gets me emotional even when I think about it, where he kind of goes for a run with the dog and then sits down and hugs the dog and thanks him. And he doesn't cry or anything like that. It's just, you know how much it means to the dog. And then you know how much it means to him because of this dog, because I've built it up hopefully enough for the reader to really get it there. So you want it to be something that matters to them that you can use in the room to make it more emotional. You don't necessarily have to make them sobbing and crying. Study scenes that have done, I know I tell you guys this all the time, but study people that have done it really well. Study the scenes that really get you kind of weepy, or the scenes that you absolutely could not forget after you put the book down. Study those and how that character did, how that author did it so well, and what the character did in the scene that helped you to see it without being told it, if that makes sense. And I did do a video on Wednesday about the micro actions and how to up the emotion with every single micro action. And you can look at taking every single action reaction that is in your scene and making it more and more emotion with each, more and more tension, more and more of leading up to what the reader knows is coming. When you tear apart a scene and you really look down at the micro level, you can see how these tiny things make a big difference. Um, Carl, today is not the manuscript feedback day. That is on Monday, every other Monday. And I think it is the next one, because I had to skip this week's, right? Didn't we have one this on the 20th? I think I can't even remember, honest to God. It's been a very busy month. I'll have to look on the next break and tell you guys when the next one is. It might be the 27th. I'm not sure. I'll look and see when the next one is, but those are on every other Monday. And I'll drop the link in there later during this live stream so you guys can put your pages in there if you want. So no, I'm not going over the 200 words, but Jenny, what I will probably try to do is pull up a little scene from There to Back Again and show you how that worked for me with that scene. And yes, very windy in the UK today for Silver Alley. Saw that on watched this lady that lives on Isle of Rum in Scotland, which I guess only has 40 people, and they had some big, huge storm in Scotland. And she was showing how it was on this little isle that is a dark sky island. These are like the little facts that I love to kind of file away to somehow use some other time. Like, these are islands that have committed to having very little light pollution so that people can see the sky. I've been to Bora Bora, and when I was there, it was just breathtaking how much of the sky you could see at night because they had very little light pollution. It was amazing. I'd never seen so many stars in my life. So let's do our first sprint. We'll do 15 minutes, and I will find a little section for Jenny to kind of show you what I'm talking about, and we'll come back. So let me know if you try the prompt. there we go. I was trying to do like six things at one time, which never usually works out very well. So I did find a scene that I wanted, that scene that I was talking about, Jenny. I was going to show you a different one, and then I thought I might as well just show you the one that I was talking about. And hopefully, I've got the right one pulled up here. I think I do. Um, Let me just do a couple things real quick, just so I have everything set up the way I normally do it on my manuscript fiction days. So, a lot of times when I do the manuscript feedback, I also share something from one of my books so that you guys can actually see it in action. Um, that's awesome, Kenny. I'm really excited that you found a way to push forward in your story. It's always good. And you guys will see as I share more videos about this book that I'm writing along with the boot camp that I ended up having to like cut some and then go back because I was getting stuck early on in like the second chapter, I guess. And so I realized I was starting too late and I needed to move back. And that helped me move forward quite a bit because sometimes you're stuck because you're not in the right place with the book and you're doing too much where you're at. Okay, let's talk about this. And I have to pull it up on my Microsoft Word so I can read it because, I'm a million years old. And so I need to be able to see it. Um, so this is a scene with in From There to Back Again, which is the book that I do in the manuscript class, I'm sorry, the scene masterclass. And this is much later in the book, probably about the two-thirds point. And this is when Luke, the blind but recovering hero, has just gone through a pretty tough, traumatic, emotional moment where he has talked or has been called by the family of the person that he feels responsible for killing. Let me put it that way. And this dog that was abused and broken, that has come and found him, is there. And so I'm using the dog as a way to kind of bring Luke back because it's like a baby step for Luke to go back with people. And he relates to it, right? Like the dog he hadn't wanted or asked for, but had latched onto him all the same and refused to give up. So this dog is really kind of symbolic of what's going on in Luke's life. And so he starts talking to the dog. I wish you could tell me what happened. And the dog's just tap, tap, tap with his tail. So it's not like super unemotional yet. I have a little sort of funny line where he says, "You furry glutton for punishment." And then instead of him like ruminating about his emotional issues, like, because men don't tend to do that, as I said in the male character video, he's like, "What am I going to do with my life?" And the dog didn't answer him. And here's the little bit of backstory that comes up because it was triggered. Remember, it always has to be triggered. Mike had said that Luke could go back to the Coast Guard, but he doesn't want to do that. And that also triggers him thinking about what the heroine said. It doesn't mean you stop being a man, Olivia had said, and that his grandmother and Mike had been saying the same thing. And now, because this is like the two-thirds point, this is the second turning point. This is him deciding to move forward finally. He realizes he'd spent too much damn time in the dark, literally, figuratively, every way. Um, and as he's holding the phone, which had just rung with the sister, I think it's the sister of the guy he thinks he was responsible for killing, he realizes that he is being a coward because he's not addressing what's going on. And he kind of has a minute where he's just thinking, which he can have because it's just him and the dog. Nobody's there. There's nobody talking to him. So he can have a moment to think. And the dog becomes, like I said, symbolic. He looked at the dog, still healing, though the bandage was gone and fur had begun to cover the wound, and realized Chance had done the same thing. Wherever the dog had lived before was gone, and whatever he did here forward would be different. So that, I'm hoping, is building some emotion for the reader because I'm showing you the dog as a way to kind of get this emotion across. And let me move on to the next part with that because I'm looking at comments at the same time. So the dog is sort of the impetus for him that he wants to go out and he wants to go for a run, and Luke decides that he will. And so the Luke changes into his running clothes. He goes out and they start walking and then they start running and the dog stays right beside him. Quarter mile, half a mile, a full mile. And then I'm showing how he's feeling with this, showing it. Air rushed over his skin. And you see how this is not the air was rushing, it is more powerful. When you use a form of to be, was, has, had been, it kind of removes the reader a little bit and it creates telling. Showing is when you're using stronger verbs. The air rushed over him. drew in a sharp breath. The sensation of speed rippled under his shirt, through his vein. His heart hammered in his chest, chances panting, all of those bigger words. And then he has finally done this is a big deal for him because he has stayed in his house for months and he has gone on a run with a dog. But it's a run with an animal as scarred by life as Luke was, and the raw, agonizing wounds had begun to scab over. And now he just kind of drops down and hugs the dog. The response from the dog is where I think the emotion lies in this scene. Chance didn't bark or wag or make a sound. So sometimes I'm drawing it out just a little bit to really slow down the reader just a bit. When you have that extra or in there, Chance didn't bark or wag or make a sound. It draws it out just a tiny bit and emphasizes what the dog is not doing. He just stayed there, his warm body pressed against the chest of the man who had found him and given him a second chance at happiness in life. So now you feel hopefully the emotions of the dog, and it sort of goes into the dog's point of view, yes, but I think it works because it's just for a second. And now finally the dog had returned the favor. So then you're just like, oh, I'm so excited about that dog. And I love that dog. So that's what I mean by sort of using the other things in the scene to really bring the emotion to life and studying other scenes that have done it well. And Katya wrote a bit more than 100 words, but editing all the time, which slowed you down. Yeah, I kind of get stuck in that too. Mo had 201 words, and nice to get out of stuck and muddling through a clear emotional romantic route with way too much external stuff. We all do that because the external is easy to write. And Silver probably had 144 words. I didn't get that much written because I was spending a ton of time looking for my scene, trying to decide which the best one would be to show you guys. Kind of like four of them up. and, and that one, it's a simple scene, right? It's in a male point of view, so I don't want him to be sobbing because he's not. He's a guy. He's not going to. But you can draw it out by you want to have the character's voice break. You want to look at how they would normally tell these things. Like when I have somebody confessing something big or really delving deep into something emotional, I draw it out a little bit more because in real life, we don't just for the most part, we don't just blather everything that we are feeling right there. And we just kind of like, we'll get up, we'll move, our sentences will cut off and we'll need to take a breath and you give a second for the other character to react. So if you draw it out a little bit and you use your setting or another character or a thing in the room, you can really increase that emotion. I love to use like storms and fireplaces and animals and all of those kinds of things to increase the emotion by using them as sort of a foil or a metaphor for what the character is going through so that it can increase it without being, like you said, melodramatic. And half a mo, figuring out when it's okay to be in their head, slowing down things is so difficult. Yes. And I will tell you guys, this is going to be I think it's either next week or the week after's video about the book that I'm working on with the boot camp that I think it's the one in a couple weeks that I spent a ridiculous amount of time in my character's head in the beginning. And then when I realized I started it too late, I had to go back and take that out and start adding action. And now all of a sudden the scene is moving. I had to add other characters and things happening. She's a party planner and she's hosting a party, and I have like 3 pages of introspection. And I know that that doesn't work. I know that in my gut, and I can feel it not working. And so I started thinking, okay, so what's she logically going to do? What is the natural progression of events here? How is she going to move from here to there? And who's going to potentially interrupt her? What's the things that she would be doing so that I'm keeping her moving and her narrative is toned down a little bit more, only to the places where it would make sense. Like she does not have time to be thinking about things when she's having a conversation with her head chef. She doesn't have time to be thinking about things when she's talking to the people that hired her. So she's going to be engaged in the conversation and then afterwards have that moment. If you guys watch the care video, which is the one that came out on Wednesday, I show you how in First Lie Wins, there's so much action that she doesn't have time for the emotional impact and to be in her head for a little bit. And then she has time, and then there's more action, and then there's time. Do I hold on to the introspection I take out? Is it useful for later on when they open up more? I used to. So when I first started writing, I would hold on to everything. Like maybe I'll use this someday. And honestly, this was back in the days of like floppy disk drives. I have been writing for so long. So I don't actually even have any of that stuff anymore, because over the years the floppies degraded or I lost them or whatever. So I don't have a lot of the early books. They were all on floppies, but I used to save it all. And then I realized that they're just words. They've already happened in my head, so I sort of know it and I can write better ones. So when I cut something, I never look back at it. I very rarely have early drafts of things. I just keep going over it, and fixing it and tweaking it and taking it out because I'm not going to miss the words. I'll just create new ones. So a lot of times when I'm trying to show you guys a before and after, I don't actually have a before because I didn't have anything that I cut and kept. It's a lot of times just going over it and cutting it. So no, I don't really. It's really more me getting to know this character and knowing full well that I'm going to have to cut this because it's too much narrative. So as much as I love the narrative, yeah. And now everybody does it different. So it's not like you can't do it the way that you do it, but I just don't. If you're having trouble and you don't want to let it go, then yeah, absolutely. Say, I mean, how big is the file? Like 3 kilobytes. Just save it on your computer. It's not going to be a big deal. But eventually you'll be like, yeah, we can write something else here. Okay, let's do another sprint and then I'll get my 15 minutes here for my book that I'm working on, which makes me super excited. Okay, and I'll start the timer. guys. That was another 15 minutes. We did a good job. How did you guys do? Did anybody do the did anybody try taking their character to a sketchy part of town? I did not get that far in my scene today because I did think that that would be a cool thing to throw into the book that I'm working on, but that's a couple scenes down, I think. So it's definitely not at the place where I want it to be. And in case you guys missed the short that I did today, I have a proposal, a romantic suspense proposal that my agent is sending out. And that's always like a super stressful time. So I had sent it to her back in November. And as you probably already know, nothing in publishing moves quickly. And November, December are not months to send anything out to editors because everybody's taking time off for the holidays, right? And then you don't want to do it the first week of January because everybody's getting swamped with email coming back to work after the holidays. So my agent had sat on it until the second week of January, I guess. And she read it and she loved it. And she decided that originally we were only going to send it to my editor that I currently write for. And she decided that we should take it wide and not make it exclusive. So she is compiling a list of editors to send it to besides my own, and seeing who else might be interested in it. So it's always a crapshoot. You never want to get your hopes up too high because you never know what's going to happen in publishing. Somebody else could have had the exact same idea as me and get there 5 minutes earlier than I do, or publish their book, the day before mine gets on the editor's desk. So you never know what editors are looking for, what's hot, what's not, whether it's going to do well. But now begins my obsessively watching my email and phone to see if anybody got back to me, get back to my agent. Silver Raleigh had 127 words, and Jenny is stuck with the outer plot. It's a mess. It can be really hard, like if you have a pretty complicated plot, to kind of clean it up and make sure that it doesn't have too much going on, so that you're not overcomplicating a book that isn't long enough to have that. And then some people have a plot that isn't complicated enough. Like I'm reading a book right now that is probably 100,000 words too long. It's a couple 100,000 words, I would say. And it's by a very famous author, so I can see why she would get away with having a super long book. But I'm like, there's not enough plot here to cover this extra 100,000 words. And it was really cool until about, I don't know, almost halfway through the book, almost the midpoint. And then I was like, okay, this is just more of the same for pages after pages after pages. And so now I'm skipping forward because I really do want to see how this mystery turns out, but I'm skipping so much because I know that it has nothing to do with the main plot. And maybe a little bit of the scene, but it's not triggered enough by the main plot or interrelated enough to the main plot to really matter. And she's repeating the same sort of theme over and over again. Like the character's not growing and changing. She's just kind of reverting back to who she was at the beginning over and over again. I can see that happening a couple of times, but really you want the characters to grow and change. And yes, Half-a-Mo, it definitely is focusing. I love it because for the most part, I turn off my phone and don't answer my email. Every once in a while, I do have to work. It depends on how busy the day is. But for the most part, I don't do any of that. And I just get to work on my book. And it makes me so ridiculously happy because I would rather do that all day than anything else. Um, and I'm so happy you guys are here with me. So we don't have time to do another sprint because it's almost 5 and I do have something to do tonight. So I don't have time to run another one, which really stinks. Um, but I encourage you guys to check out never did look up the other manuscript Monday, did I? I meant to, and then I forgot all about it. Uh, so yeah, that's on me for not even remembering. So the next manuscript live is February 3rd. So that's the next one, February 3rd for the next manuscript live, and I will put the link into the chat. And hopefully, nothing comes up that interrupts that because it sometimes somebody will override my calendar on me, and then I can't have it. So, one thing there. I was looking for the manuscript mastermind link. There is a Google form that you can fill out to be able to submit to it, and that's the 200 words that Carl had asked about earlier. Here you go. Here's the link to submit. Um, And Jenny says there's a goal and smaller steps, but those steps are weird, and the main character should be clever. It feels that she is guessing stuff. Yeah, well, definitely going to have to make it something that perhaps is more within her wheelhouse so that it would make sense that she would figure it out. Like I just read, what was it? The Girl Who Was Taken by Charlie John Leah. And the main character is a forensic doctor. So she's like a forensic fellow. She's hasn't quite graduated medical school yet, but she's in forensics. And so it makes sense for her to figure certain things out because she has a background in forensics where somebody else might not have figured that out. I didn't like the ending though. I got to say that. So if you guys read it, just warning you, I did not like the ending. So that's the stuff for the manuscript mastermind, the manuscript feedback session, which is on the every other Monday, because I don't have enough time to have it every single day. And if you guys haven't signed up for the boot camp, you can still save 10% off on that. Um, and if you bundle both courses, there's also a bundle option on the website. You get 27% off bundling both writing romance novels, and the Writers Boot Camp. But like I said, the Writers Boot Camp, I'm writing a book alongside you guys, the one that I'm doing on Fridays, and I'm trying to write a few hundred words every single day. Sometimes those words happen really early in the morning because I don't have time during the rest of my day, but I'm trying to keep moving forward on it so that it doesn't get lost in the shuffle of working. So I appreciate you guys being here. I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend and everybody gets some writing done. I know I'm going to do a few hundred words and I'm going to keep you guys updated on what's going on with that book as often as I can. And hopefully we write all this together, right? And at the end of 3 months, we all have some great books to go with. So thank you for being here and let me know in the comments if you have anything else you'd like to see for a particular video or something that you want me to talk about because I'm always here to answer your writing questions. And I always appreciate you guys, every one of you that follows me and subscribes and shows up to write with me. I really, really appreciate you guys. So I will see you next week. Have